Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And my name is Frangina Johnson. I am here for Juneteenth Speaks. We are celebrating Juneteenth. And to do Juneteenth, we decided to put something together virtually because of COVID. We cannot be too close to one another and have a gathering, but we still wanted to continue the Juneteenth tradition. And so for today, well, tomorrow and Wednesday will be the last day. We have been featuring artists called The Voice Behind the Artist. And so we have had some very interesting people. And today we are featuring Yvette Trotman and her nephew, Nigel. And that was Nigel that was playing on the keyboards a little bit before we got started. And a little bit later on, we will have let him introduce himself, and we'll talk to him about his plans as an artist and where he's going. And right now, we'd like to say hello to Yvette Trotman. Hi, how are you
Hi,
doing?
Frangina.
Hey,
how are you?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm glad to have you here is what I want to say. Glad
Thank
to have
you very
here.
much.
So let me tell you a little bit about Yvette. Yvette is a person who shows up on purpose as a dancer, a poet, a dress designer, a musician, writer, a minister, and a lover of life. Her vocation has been as a dean for the college health and biology. Oh, she was also a college health and biology instructor, a dietitian, a health educator, a job search coach, a corporate trainer, a diversity professional while working in many worlds, education and corporate America. She's also worked in the prison system, the school system, hospitals, clinics, and nursing homes. She hails from the beautiful Caribbean island of St. Kitts, and she's a longtime member of the Caribbean community in Minnesota, one of the founders of the many Caribbean associated events, including CARAFest. She was educated in Canada, Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C., and she also, while in Washington, is where she attended Howard University, and she also went to the University of Michigan. Wow, what an amazing what an amazing uh, resume you have.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we wanted to invite you here today so we can talk about your journey and how you have come to where you are today. And I believe that an artist is inclusive of all things. You have to have an art, even to cook. There's an art to cooking. So we want to talk about you and how you started and where you are going from this point in your life. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
How much time do you have?
Well, we don't have a lot of time, but
Okay.
I think we can put some things in have a really nice conversation to tell about who you are so we can get the picture.
I have been honored to be asked to do this. I'm really honored. I like to say that my life has taken a circuitous journey. I have many loves, many interests, and I have been blessed to carry out many of them. And as you will learn today, discovering more each day and each year. And that's really where I want to put my focus, is my new discovery in poetry. But when you talk about the many things that I've done and the many forms of art, I would say it started with cooking and dancing. I remember hearing stories from my mother that she would look out the window and see me dancing with the trees. And I've told the story of how my neighbor invited me to buy pants for the first time, jump over in her fence and go dancing. So I love to dance. I love to live life. And the traumas and the crises that I've been faced with, I use artwork, whether it's dance and now recent poetry, to overcome those hurdles. And that is my mission, is to help others find art forms and other forms that they too can grow. And from the trauma, we're in a traumatized world right now, and we have to find ways to grow through this process.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So right now you are doing a lot of poetry.
Yes, I am.
So how did you come to this place where you are right now with all the other previous jobs and experiences that you have had? How did you come about coming to this place where you are right now as an artist?
I would like to share a poem to describe how I came to that place.
Okay.
It's called A Poet, Nature or Nurture, Born or Made. It was April 2019, and my life felt betwixt and between. As I was preparing my fight for injustice, my life ahead seemed unseen. To relieve this tension of uncertainty and knowing how justice can be buried, I decided to write my story in the form of poetry. Writing poetry healed my soul and my body. For me, it became natural therapy. Daily, I would feel poetry seeping into my subconscious. I could hardly keep up as I navigated my thoughts like a compass. I am blessed to have discovered this gift of writing poetry. It became an inspiration to help me draw out and record my story. Writing poetry seemed to sharpen and develop so many parts of me, a self-taught gift I did not see. It came so natural, like leaves on a tree. As my will buried itself into the quiet, it felt rich, and I had so much to gain. It elevated my desire to listen, become silent, same words, and motivated me to become a chaplain. My newly minted craft is now my secret to happiness. It brings me much ease and joy as I sit for hours on end and play with it like a toy.
That was good. And so that says a lot. And it says, if I'm getting this correctly, you were longing to do this for quite some time. Is that what you mean by the secret? So it's been in you.
I would say that, and I would just say that my passion of addressing injustice really brought it out. Or my passion for addressing injustice.
Well, we'll talk about that a little later because I know you have a lot to say about that, and there's so much going on here in the Twin Cities. It's just unbelievable, but we all have to be able to understand how to get along. So in the meantime, tell us a little bit more about some of the things that you've done and that you like. I see here that you were a designer and you like to sew.
I love to sew. I have been sewing my own clothes for most of my life, my adult life for sure. And, you know, there's something about the touch and the feel of fabric, the self-expression. I was gifted having a grandmother who made my own clothes. You know, when you have somebody like your grandma who makes your own clothes, you feel special. There's no one that looks like you. And so as an adult, and I did go to training. I went to school in Canada, Kempville College, where I learned sewing, and I continued that art. And I just love it. It feels good when I show up and no one has anything looking like I do. But I've also done sewing as a gift for others. I've gifted some of my dear friends wedding dresses and other things. And when my mom was alive, I made all of her clothes. So I love to sew, yes.
Do you also find that the skills that you have for sewing allows you to think about how you're going to create your art when you write your poetry?
Well, the skills for sewing helps in leadership. It helped me as a dean. It helped me in all of my work because it involves, you have to make decisions. So you have to decide. Not every pattern fits the style and outfit or fabric. So you have a lot of decisions to make. And when I'm sewing for others, you have to decide, does that person's body type fit that particular style? So you have choices to make, decisions to make. Then there's the mathematics, the math of it is involved. Sewing to scale. Is designing is you design events, you design clothes. There's so many aspects to it. So it's a transferable skill.
All right. Well, with that, I know that you have a lot that you would like to share with us and the audience today. Would you like to read us another one of your poems?
Well, I shared with you that I had the joy of poetry reading. So I want to use, as I transition, the joy is a very brief poem that I came up with. J-O-Y, J-O-Y, joy must surely mean justice for Yvette and others in between. So I'm now passionate to seek justice not only for myself, but for others and to be a part of that. And it reminded me of being aware of my environment. As the poem I'm going to read, I learned from my grandmother as a youngster. I may have been 8 or 10, somewhere at that age. And so this poem is in honor of Marion Phipps, my grandmother. She and I were visiting my grandfather's youngest sister. Auntie Ellen lived over the village near the crazy house. with a barbed wire fence, a building we had to walk past, what today is referred to as a mental hospital, to get to my aunt's residence. As we were getting closer, one of the patients rushed to the fence and looked like a monster. I let go my grandmother's hand and ran like a cheetah. Grandma turned around and shouted at me and said, "Child, get back here and get yourself together." I headed back, scared and shaking. She gave me a big hug, which felt so reassuring. She looked right at me in the eyes and said, "Let this lesson be your guide. The people to fear are the crazies on the outside." To this day, my mind is imprinted with this jarring message, which has served me to be aware of my surroundings and live my life with courage. This was one of the few memories I have of my grandmother showing compassion, as I vividly recall this visceral lesson. The crazies are on the outside. I have spoken.
They sure are. They sure are. So one of the other questions is, because you've had such a very rounded and experience in doing the different jobs that you've had, what was the one thing that really inspired you, that when you got to a point you was like, this is what I'm going to do. I don't care what no one says. This is what's in me. This is what, and there was an inspiration, and you said, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life until I take my last exhale. What was that moment for you?
That moment came last April when I decided injustice is not for just us. It's not just for two people or a few people. And that's when I decided the rest of my life is going to be geared to supporting and fighting injustice and exposing injustice in any possible shape or form. In the corporate world, in the education system, in administration, I've been at the table and injustice is rampant, and I intend to speak up and be a part. There is nothing left for me to fear but fear itself, and I'm no longer afraid.
So all your work is about, would you say that your work is about the pain of other people, the injustice?
Supporting other people. Everybody is not, I recognize that everyone is not at the same place that I am and may not have the same voice that I have. And I feel that this voice is not going to be stopped anymore. This voice will not be shut down.
That's a very good place to be, when you're fearless, when you want to be able to pursue something regardless to whatever the consequences may be.
Correct.
And you know what you stand for. I think that's a very good place to be. You have another poem that I think maybe this is a really great time to read it. It's called My Color Purple.
My Color Purple. This is a really great transition because it's quite long, but it speaks to what you were asking me earlier, and that is, how did some of my past impact where I am today? And part of becoming strong and fearless is a transition. It doesn't happen overnight. And you and I talked about this before, earlier. And I learned to practice how to be strong and fearless from my mother. My mother was my mother is deceased. My mother was an amazingly strong woman, way ahead of her time and her thinking. We had our clashes, but as I have matured and gotten older, it's amazing what I learned from my mom and also what my mom learned from me. And this poem has a lot to do with it. It was midnight on Tuesday, September 10th, and up to bed I was heading. Up comes my nephew, Nigel, who's been playing the piano playing. It's a joy in this house on many fronts. and caught me to talk before I left the kitchen. Auntie Yvette, he said, I just saw a book titled When I'm an Old Woman and I Would Wear Purple. And it made me remember as a youngster, grandma telling a story about wearing purple on 3 occasions involving the death of people close to her. Does the storybook we have anything to do with grandma's purple story? I said, no, Nigel. I will sit and tell you the story from my understanding and my theory. So emotionally, I shared my version of the memory of this portion of our family history. As a youngster, I had the privilege of my grandmother being my personal fashion designer. Whenever she got ready to make me an outfit, she would give me the opportunity to select the fabric for it. Every time I made a fabric selection, I gravitated to purple as my natural intuition. My mother would inform me that purple fabric you could not wear. That became an ongoing saga from year to year. I got numb to the constant rejection that over time I lost my spirit and motivation. And therefore I disregarded any interest in sitting still to listen to my grandma's profession. My love for purple fabric only became more intense. So I thought that the only thing that would make sense is working for a fabric store. Here I would get an opportunity to embrace purple fabric and not endure the constant rejection from my mother anymore. As years passed and my life evolved, my yearning to wear purple had not disappeared or even dissolved. Because not knowing why I could not wear purple was a deep, dark family secret I had never resolved. I built up the courage to ask my mother why. She said it was because she was wearing purple when my father died and her brother died, and she felt if I wore purple, she too would die. The thought of this burden left me in a fog. So from that moment, I dropped the dialogue. And fog for me means fear, obligation, and guilt. That if I should wear purple, my mother would die. Finally, I decided it was time to challenge my mother's belief so I could get some relief from this long-standing trauma and grief. I went to the store and bought some purple outfits and wore them all week long without my mother knowing any of it. At the end of the week, I gave my mother in Florida a call, and in talking with her, noted that she didn't have a scratch or even a fall. So I told my mother I had finally wore something purple all week. She was in shock, alive, and could not speak. Well, I had broken the family spell as I told my story to my nephew, Nigel. I have continued to wear purple to this day. Even my walls of my house are painted purple.
Wow, that is beautiful. I would like to speak to Nigel. Is Nigel's favorite color purple too?
I will let him tell you.
Nigel, introduce yourself first.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Nigel Foster Jones.
Hello? We can't hear him.
Can you come over there?
Yvette, he's gonna need to come near the laptop.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, yes.
My name is Nigel Foster Jones. I'm an artist, a pianist, a rapper, a scientist. I have my bachelor's degree in biology from Georgia Southern University. Yeah, that's who I am.
Wow. So how did you get? Is your favorite color purple?
Not particularly. I personally am not a big fan of dividing things by color. I think it's just rather pointless. That's been my position since I was rather young. Is just I was always the kid who said, "Oh, I like all the colors." Just
You like
and part of that was because I wanted to be that kid, and part of it was because I do think that putting things into categories does tend to let you lose a lot of the information. I mean, if you look at purple, like purple is nothing without red and blue. If you look at any color, that color is nothing without all the other colors. So I mean, just by saying, oh, it's the color purple, like that leaves out everything that made it what it is.
Well, you know what? We all can agree to disagree, because I love the color purple.
Really?
And yeah, I love the color purple. I love blues and greens, and so the colors that it take to make those colors, yes, you're right. I like them too. But when you blend them together, like the harmony that we're trying to blend today, I believe that it takes all colors to make a good color and to make harmony. So tell me how you got into playing. You have a background in biology. How did you go from biology to music? Is it something as a hobby, or?
Well, so it was, no, music has always been more of a form of stress relief, as in, I've always been, you know, I guess there was always a high expectation of how I would study, of how much I would study. Going to school for music was never something that was really something that I considered, but I've always played music every day. You know, when I'm stressed about studying, or when I'm stressed about school, or when I'm stressed about anything, music is my outlet. That's what I go to, you know, to have something where I can express myself without having rules, without having anybody telling me how I can or can't do it. And that's just always been what I do. As far as why I studied biology, it was simply because I'm fascinated, I suppose, by the way that life has consistently found a way to continue to exist, and how we came here, I guess, you know, how we came to be as we are now. You know, it's been a long journey, and the journey didn't start with us as humans. The journey started long before that. But you know, we're just here, the latest leg in that journey. And I wanted to study biology because I wanted to see our place in that story, and how we fit in, and how we can continue to fit in, and have our existence here be sustainable.
So in the beginning of the opening, you were playing a song. What was the name of that song?
So that was actually mixed several different songs that share a common motif of nature. So it was A Wonderful World by Louis Armstrong. It also included Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. And the reason that I selected the songs that I did is because I wanted to give an idea of a home that is peaceful. You know, trees of green, clouds of white, a wonderful world where you know, we sing hallelujah because of the natural beauty that we're surrounded by every day, that we often have tuned out. But now that we're cooped up in our homes, it's something that I'm sure we all miss, and that it's, you know, it makes us who we are. It makes us, you know, that's what brought us to where we are now. And so that's really what I wanted to highlight with the selection that I picked there.
And also, so you enjoy where you are living right now, and it's very peaceful, and it's very cathartic, and it's also a place where it nurtures you and allows you to be free with your mind and the gift that you've been given. Yeah, that's beautiful. So I was wondering, would you mind playing again for us?
Yes. So to go along with the poem that my aunt just read, I'm going to play some selections relating to color. So let's adjust this camera here.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I think I noticed that some of the familiar songs in there. Which ones did you play?
So that was True Colors.
You need to get closer to the laptop.
So the first song was actually The Colors of the Wind from Pocahontas, and then True Colors, I'm Blue, Yellow Submarine, and then We're All in This Together was the last song.
That was a great medley.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And then maybe before the end of this interview, maybe you can play us one more selection.
Right. Yeah, I look forward to it.
Okay, thank you. So Yvette.
Hello.
Hello. Wow.
See how beautiful? We have just the beautiful energy here.
Yeah, and he's so gifted and he's so intelligent and he's so smart. Don't you just love it?
Yeah, I love it.
I know. Wow, you are blessed. You are so blessed. You are so blessed. So would you like to read another one of your poems?
Well, this poem was one that I wrote back on April 5th with the corona, when the coronavirus first hit. Well, not first hit, but when we were sheltered at home. And I'm reading it as best as I can in Caribbean dialect.
Okay.
It's called Go, Corona, Go. Corona, Corona, where your father and where your mother? Me need to talk with them about your dinner. Why you pick 19 for me quarantine? I've been waiting all my life to leave home. Now you tell me I can't roam? This staying home thing, I know easy. It'll take up way too much energy. When you spin round, you think you see it here. Next thing you see it there. This virus are everywhere. Corona, Corona, why you confusing your owner? If you think it's me you're confused, watch how you got me going here and there in the dancing shoes. I'm jumping up, jumping down, like Maka Jumbi, jumping all around. You got me taking my clothes off and putting it on. Then I got to wash it up and wash it down. You got me doing all this choring in the kitchen. I got to wash groceries, dishwasher pack, dishwasher unpack, take them out and put them back. Food heat, food unheat. I'm home now, so always looking for something to eat. Take out the pots and take out the pans. Corona, remember to wash your hands. Wash and dry and wash and dry. This hard work can make me cry. This new habit hard to develop. Ain't no restaurant open to back me up. It'll hurt me heart how you keeping our way apart. You know, you'll make history with your mystery. I don't know what you want me to do. Take me advice, Corona. Hurry up and pass through. For this year, stay home in the cabin is downright mean. I understand it's to keep us safe and clean. But you need to go, Corona. You need to go.
Yes, absolutely. I'm loving that. That was good. That was good. And because I missed the dialect, I wanted to say, yeah, man, you better go get me some peas and rice right now.
Well, that's because because Frangina, you have to tell them you grew up in New York among
Oh,
Caribbean people.
oh my goodness. I was like, oh, I wish I can't wait for carnival time. I hope they don't cancel it this year. I hope they do Caribbean Fest this year.
Corona has to go.
Has to go. It has to go. So so while you're doing this transition, I love the things that you say, how you express your words, especially when you're not trying to be anyone else but yourself. And that's very important. So while you're making this transition, was there a moment that you wrote something and you said, that's it? That was one of the most amazing pieces. You sat there and you went, God, thank you. Because that didn't come from nowhere, but you being inside me and my thoughts and my experiences, it was just an amazing feeling that you had. Which poem was that?
That was...
Or what time was it?
Well, there's so many of them like that are like that. I bless my family, my husband, my son, Deval, Nigel, who has to put up with me and my passion of, you guys have to live to this. Or my poor sister, my friend Marissa, my brother Leslie, my sister-in-law Val, my friends, Bob and Pauline, I am calling everybody, you gotta listen to this. My dear friend Hazel, I get it into my system and I'm passionate. And it comes out, and I'm really grateful to have the lovely family and friends who will listen to my dream come true.
Is there one in particular that you've written that really sticks with you, that you like more than the others?
Minnesota Nice.
Ah, all right.
Minnesota Nice.
We on equal territory.
You know, when you open Facebook, Facebook always asks you, what's on my mind? And I thought, I need to tell Facebook what's on my mind. This is posted on my Facebook page, but I have to read it because it continues to be, I wrote it again because of injustice. Let me read it.
Okay.
This was my message to Facebook. What's on my mind? Why are some people missing the DNA link called kind? I often wonder, do they really want to know what's on my mind? I stop to ponder. Facebook, you asked me, so I'll tell you. The way I feel right now is like every other injustice. It will be hidden like it did not even exist. Our cells are exhausted from absorbing the pain, and our memories have become accustomed because history tells us we have nothing to gain. Until another racial volcanic emotional eruption exposing how white privilege embarrasses the world and the whole nation, and those in power with their executive and administrative judgment use the law to deny insidious racist behaviors and practices that allow us to die right in front of your very eye. We sweep them under the rug with no one paying the price and condone the racist behavior cloaked as Minnesota Nice. May we gather the strength to support each other and share the DNA missing in some of us called kind, knowing this can no longer continue. Facebook, do you now know, and do you now get what's on my mind?
That was good. And I want to say that you're not saying that to hurt anybody's feelings.
No, we need to get together.
Yes, you're just saying that because sometimes things are so systemic that they don't even realize that it's happening or that that's what they're doing.
Correct.
And they don't realize that we go home with those feelings that we have to stuff and still come back with a smile on your face and be Minnesota Nice. And so it's nice that you were able to express that in a way and let people understand that I'm not saying it to cause you harm. I'm saying it because it's my truth, and I need for you to understand what it is that you do when
Right.
you do it. Yes.
Well, if we don't express our pain and hurt in a form, a creative format that we can start with communication, then it just gets buried. And if I put on my health hat, we just keep exposing our bodies to more cortisone rush. And that makes everybody sick. You're sick because you want to be able to help. You want to be able to do something. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to start the dialogue. I'm sick because I'm not talking. And silence is acceptance.
Yeah, and many people have been silent for a long time, too long, and taking everything into consideration in the climate of Minnesota and where we're at right now, that with the situation and the death of George Floyd and how it became global, because I know a lot of people say, well, that's not the first time that the police has killed someone. That's not the first time that a Black man has died. That's not the first time that someone has been lynched. That's not the first time. Well, what is it so different about now? I've heard someone the other day say, well, he had a dark past. He did this, he did that. He wasn't good. He had a problem with drinking. He had a problem with drugs. That all may be true, but I don't think that people understand. It wasn't so much that well, let me change that. It was the thing that struck everybody the most is the intensity and smile and smugness and the smirk that this officer had on his face while he was taking somebody's life out. And you have to look at that and say, well, is that how they feel all the time when they do it? 99% of the time, the answer is going to be yes. I watched the film where a little boy, he couldn't have been no more than 12. They handcuffed this kid and they was dragging him out the store. He kept saying, what did I do? What did I do? I didn't do anything. I didn't do anything. Can you let me go? Get off me. His parents weren't anywhere around. Luckily, somebody interfered and said, you can't do that to him. You can't do it. But they completely ignored him and they put him in a patrol car. So with you writing about the social injustices and being here a long time, how do you want your poetry, one, to help bring about an understanding of what needs to change when they read it? And also, what do you think needs to be done? Because there's so many things that we've done over and over again. We rally, we scream, we holler. But what can be done differently to bring about a loving harmony to help people understand that we should not disrespect each other as human beings and disrespect each other because of our culture and disrespect one another because of our color? So I would like for you to answer those two questions. Do you need for me to go back?
No, you know, I'm going to put on my health hat for a little bit.
Okay.
And say that all of us, all human beings are prone to what we know in the stress management world as sensory adaptation. Our senses get adapted to things. And those senses have to be jarred. They have to be reminded. They have to be, we have to do something to change that sensory adaptation. And we don't pay attention. So when we adapt to something, we just go along to get along, or we just follow our noses and we don't pay any attention to everything else. And following our noses is another, putting on my education hat, we entrain. We jump on the train. So Go with me. We adapt to our senses and we go along with the train. Something has to change there. We have to completely shift in order to make a difference. We can no longer be sensory adapted to something and just going along and not paying attention. We have to denature it. When I taught nutrition, I would say to my students, protein, that substance that we eat, need to be completely denatured for the body to digest it. Denaturation is changing the nature of things. So I'm not saying that we have to defund police or whatever other things, but we truly have to denature things in order for it to change. And an example of denaturation from a nutrition perspective is when I crack that egg and I take it out of the shell and I cook it. There's no way in heaven that egg is going back into that shell. It is denatured. We must denature things if we expect change.
And how does your poetry, when they read it, what is it that you want them to get the same thing out of it? You want
I want them to, the poem to be jarred, for it to, one line, one thought, one word, one image, to be a trigger for them to come off the train, be denatured, pay attention, be aware. Each of us have to do it in our own way. At the point in time, whether you are at the corporate table and you're sitting there and you're hearing a policy and you are part of writing a policy, like I have been at times, and you say, no, this will not work for someone of color. You're helping the other person who doesn't have the same set of lenses as you do. You may risk your job like I might have, and I have, but you have to stand up for what you believe in. You've got to denature old behaviors and old habits within ourselves. I've had to do denaturing.
You need to write a book of poems called Denatured. You have 2 poems about, I would like for you to read those 2 poems that you have. One is about George Floyd, and then you have another one. I would like for you to read those. And then I would like Nigel to join you so we can see him and hear him. And then we have a lot of people on the line that I would like to open up for a Q&A, that they can ask you questions and you can give them answers. And then I would like to close out with Nigel playing another selection.
Thanks, Benjina. This poem came about for me when I thought, now what is the connection between the coronavirus and Floyd's death? So it's called Coronavirus or Just Us, for justice. What's the connection between the virus and Floyd's death? It's the breath. It is eerie similar to another illness called police brutality. Funny how they're both respiratory. This illness caused by the novel coronavirus, police brutality virus, is called by justice or just us, the police. They do have a distinguishing characteristic, feeling a shortness of breath, to be specific. COVID-19 virus can enter through the hands and the face. Police brutality virus was entering Floyd's sacred space. I can't breathe, was his cry. He was sending a message. He was about to die. As Chauvin pressed down on Floyd's neck with his knees, he begged for his life. Please, 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 as the crowd echoed his cry for it to cease. Floyd was angry for air, or what the medical profession calls shortness of breath or dyspnea, as his chest tightened and he cried out in fear. I begin every period of prayer by breathing in We all know that the breath is the moment our life begins. He was sending his last breath and prayer to those who were there, as the officer, in defiance and arrogance, posing with hands in pocket, cut off his breath with a snare. There is no accident these two illnesses, police brutality and coronavirus, have intersected here among us. An epicenter for racism, yet a place we can make a difference by examining the injustices others have been subject to. This work is no longer hiding. It is in the open for all of us to do, for all of us to do.
Participants that are online said, remember, she's a chaplain. And I went, that's right, she is. So I would like for you to tell people when you are expressing yourself the way you are with all that you have experienced in life and that you know from a spiritual point of view, how do you combine that? And then how do you relate to people in a way that they can understand it and that is coming from a place of spiritualness so that they know that this is not the end all? Because a lot of times for me, when George was passing away, I kept saying, when he called for his mother, I kept wondering, wow, is she standing there saying, baby, come on. I know you don't want to go like this, but come on. I'm here, I'm waiting for you. Just come on. Just come on. That's what I was thinking. And then I just went, wow, for you to be as expressive as you are, to have had the life to be able to touch on so many different things. And the thing about it is, Yvette, they all come together. Everything that you've done has come together to this point of who you are today. Everything that is going to be used in your poetry. So how do you speak to people and tell them without them looking at you and saying, well, I really don't want to hear that religion. I don't want to hear that religiosity because it's not working. How do you express yourself and let them know that that is not true? Or how do you go about doing what you do and combining all of that when you're speaking to someone and communicating to someone about the injustices of the world?
The first place I come from is the body. The body tells you how you feel. The body is your self-expression. It's your self-expression through dance, through emotion. Your body tells you. You can't be happy and dance and love life if you're angry. There's no place for that. But when you're angry, you're releasing cortisol. Those hormones hurt you. That's poison. That's like injecting yourself with poison. No one is worth causing me to become poisonous. I will not give my power away. I will not let anyone take my power from me. And so I am willing to forgive people. I've had to do a lot of forgiveness work. When people cause me anger, one of the things I do is I put myself in their place. The amount of ignorance that exists. I had a friend from Dominica say to me once, some of the ignorance that exists, that person has as much brain as I have in my fingernail. You have to somehow diminish that and then pray for that person to have light, to see the light, to be surrounded by light. But I go from the place of forgiveness first, because that is for me. That is my healer. I have to be joyful. I have to dance. I have to be happy. If anybody knows anything about me, I'm the party girl. I'm the life of the party.
Yes,
Come to
you
my
are. I
parties.
believe
They're
that.
fun.
I want to hang out with you and do some African dancing and Caribbean dancing.
You got it.
It's so free, and I love it. I love African dancing, and I
You
love
said the
dancing
word
Caribbean.
free.
Yes.
Free.
It's like, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you said it. It's about being free.
Wow. Yeah. It's when you see everybody dancing in the streets and the steel drums is going, and they don't care who they dance with. They dance with each other. The men dance with each other. The women dance with each other. And it's not labeling. It's about, like you say, it's about being free and dancing to the rhythm of the drum that connects to your heartbeat.
You know, I remember a lady at home, Miss Iris, and there was another lady, Miss Enid, at home. And when people bothered her, she would just dance and wiggle her butt and whine and just carry on because, you know what? You're not bothering me. I'm having a good time. That's it. I'm not going to let you get to me.
Absolutely. You are who you are, and be proud of it. So I would like to, so this is what comes to me instantaneously. I would like for the people that are online, if they have any questions for you, to be able to ask you some questions and ask Nigel some questions. And then I would like, Nigel, I would like for him to play like something beautiful, gospel-y, a hymn or something, while you pray us out, while you pray over everyone that's here, while you pray for the Twin Cities, while you pray for the injustices that are happening, and that however that leads you, I would want to know if you would be okay with that.
Yep, I'm gonna let Nigel start playing first, and then I can transition to
No.
that.
We're gonna do the Q&A first.
Oh, the Q&A.
Okay. Yeah, we're gonna have some people. Anybody that's Henrique is going to allow people to ask you questions. I hope because he has to unmute everyone.
Anyone that wants to ask any question to Yvette or Nigel, you can unmute yourself, or turn on your camera, or raise your hand, or type in the chat, and you're gonna see that.
So is there anyone out there that would like to ask a question of Yvette or Nigel? Any questions? Raise your hand. Your voice is made to be heard. No. Okay. Peg Thomas says she's proud of you, Yvette.
Thank you, Peg.
So,
anybody else would like to make a comment or ask a question of Yvette or Nigel?
I wanted to actually go back to something that you were talking about a minute ago.
Can't hear you. Can you speak a little closer to the mic?
Can you hear me now?
No. Say something.
Hello?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so I wanted to go back to what you were saying about, you know, what it would take to actually move forward, you know, from a situation like this. And I think that it's important to consider what Auntie Yvette was talking about is the sensory, well, what did you call it? Where you filter things out, sensory adaptation, right? And that plays a key. There's a massive connection between racism and sensory adaptation. And the connection is that there's just a certain pathway in the brain that just filters out information. So, and most of the time, like in order to do anything, we have to filter out a lot of information, whether we want to walk or speak or do anything. But part of that comes with it creates holes in our world, in our reality. There's just holes, there's information missing that we're not considering. And those holes, that same pathway that cuts those holes in reality is the same pathway that produces the idea of, I'm in this group, my group is the best group, my group is separate from the other groups, it's about my group. And so there's a huge correlation between us getting accustomed to filtering out a big section of the world and us getting accustomed to neglecting huge groups of the population, you know, huge parts of the country and huge parts of the world.
Can you play like some very, very, very soft music
To go
and
with the prayer?
yes, and allow your aunt to take us out and pray for the injustices, the healing of the Twin Cities, the injustices of the world. May she pray for us individually as a group here together. I would like for her to do that. Is that okay with you, Yvette? Would you mind doing that?
That is very fine, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I want us to just center ourselves as we take a deep breath in and we breathe in peace and breathe out peace. We begin with the knowledge of the nature of God, that God is infinite peace, His infinite wisdom, His infinite love, and His infinite life. All that God is, we can realize as the truth within us. We begin in the celebration of the whole. We are all whole, and we are all holy within. We are Christ in each and every one of us. Our true nature is Christ. In the knowledge of God and in our divine nature, may we all cease mental confusion through this period and come into swift agreement that our minds and our hearts are sure and steady, that nothing can disturb any of us, our peace of mind, our harmonious heart, for we're all anchored in divine peace. We're all crying out for peace. We're all faithful to put one foot in front of the other. We're confident and expectant that peace will reign. And so it is.
So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I enjoyed you. I really enjoyed you. And I hope that you feel good about this evening.
Thank you.
And the expression that you have as a newfound artist in poetry. May you take your words and bring about healing to all those that you speak to.
Thank you very much.
You are so welcome. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. This has been The Voice Behind the Artist. We will be here again tomorrow. I will be interviewing a young man from Michigan, and he's going to be talking about injustices too in a different kind of way. And so I hope you join us, and thank you for being here this evening and taking time out of your busy schedule to allow yourself to be heard by Yvette and Nigel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.